Hello everybody, my name is KingStix, bringing you a brand new OP champion tier list for the jungle right now in patch 9.20. I've been seeing a lot of you out there stinking it up on the rift in the jungle role. You're picking the wrong champs, you don't know what's going on, so hopefully this can clear some things up for you. Starting the list off strong, we're putting Amumu in S tier. I'm just kidding. All you people picking Amumu, you need to learn your lesson. Yeah, he's trash. He's a bit of a noob trap. Okay, let's get something clear here, guys. Even if I put a champion in F tier, you can still get to diamond with that champion. Anything S through F, you can get to diamond with. It is possible. This tier list is to just break down in general what champions are easier and better to climb with right now in the jungle, rather than wasting your time on a bad champion or a champion that's really far out of the meta. I'm also not going to have a one-trick category in this tier list because I feel like it's a little bit too cheap to be able to put champions in the one-trick section. So first up, let's put in Kiana. She's F tier. She can't jungle. They made it to where she can't jungle, and plus she just got nerfed. I wouldn't recommend it. Next up, we got Ramus. We'll put him a spot above Amumu. And then we have Evelyn. Last time I think I ranked her a little bit too low after her nerfs. Plus she got buffed recently. Right now she is high A tier, low S tier. Evelyn will always be at least A tier, whether it's high or low A tier for solo queue, just because of the way her mechanics work and her theoretical carry potential in a solo queue environment. In a competitive scene, she'll almost never be viable just because of how hard pink wards counter her and how hard a good support can counter her in general if they're just constantly keeping tabs on her and letting it pink whenever she drops her charm. Every time I place Aatrox on a tier list, he gets a drastic buff or a drastic nerf, which is obnoxious. Currently, he's pretty much E tier. He's pretty shitty, very inconsistent, it doesn't scale great. Following up Aatrox with a champion that keeps falling in and out of the jungle meta, I don't think he'll come back for a while because he's just so cheesy, is Stylis. He has a 39% win rate right now, which is arguably the lowest win rate I've seen anywhere. At least within this season, having a 39% win rate in any given role is very difficult to achieve. So props to Stylis players. Let's go ahead and drop him in F tier. Next up is Elise. She's pretty much always viable just because of how strong her kit is in the early and mid game. She's pretty much the AP version of Lee Sin with her jumps and her just high damage and solo potential and early game carry potential. She'll always be B tier to S tier. If you're in higher elo, she's basically S tier. If you're not in higher elo, she's kind of B tier. Next up, we have Trundle. He's a shit biscuit just like these guys. He's a little bit better than these. He's very situational. You can pick him against Ramus and have some good results because when you ult him you can still have his stats, but in general you really can't pick Trundle, and he's in a pretty bad spot right now, so we'll leave him here in F tier. Next up is Echo. He is a more situational version of Evelyn. With that being said, he's actually better against better players because he doesn't have the same invisibility mechanic. He actually has a dash. So the higher elo you get, kind of the better he gets, while at the same time, the lower elo you go kind of starts to lose value. So we'll just set him here in A tier. Here we have Harambe. He's completely useless right now. Just as a champion, his stats are way undertuned. Doesn't have consistent power spikes. He's very gold reliant. He's kind of like a melee Twitch. He doesn't have the range, and just one CC and he's Dunsky. So we'll be setting him. I kind of want to put him ahead of Trundle because in theory, if he does get the gold, he has a decent amount of carry potential, but at the same time, realistically. So we'll set him here above Stylis. He's basically a minion. Super minion, half a super minion. All right, then we got Mundo. Last time I put him in shit tier. The truth is though, Mundo's actually in a really good spot, and I think it would be nothing less than disrespectful to put him lower than S tier. You can pick him almost in any situation. I wouldn't recommend blind picking him because max percent health damage champions like Kai'Sa and Vayne can give him some real fits, especially in the late game. But if the enemy team doesn't have max percent health champions, he is disgusting, especially if you can sneak a Soraka onto your team. You're just unkillable in the early mid game. But what if they build executioners because you're stacking all that healing? Truth is, even if they ignite you while you're on your ult on Mundo and Soraka is healing you, don't even realize you're ignited because it's just so much healing coming in at once. Like the early and mid game is just ridiculous, especially once you get Spirit Visage. It's ridiculous. Mundo, best 1v9 champion against AP champs, and against AD champs he's still pretty dang good. All right, next up is Diana. I didn't include her in the last jungle tier list just because she's so meh. She is a Walmart version of Echo, so we don't want to put her up too too high. Her main issue is her ganks pre-6 are trash. And then once she is level 6, she's still arguably worse than Echo. And yeah, for that reason, we're going to have to put her here around the Amumu tier. We'll put her in D. She's better than Aatrox in my opinion because of her level 6 one-shots are more consistent and she can clear a little bit more consistent as a jungler, but I don't think she belongs really any higher than D. Once again, guys, any champion in this tier list you can get the diamond with, so don't get butthurt just because I put your champ down low. Teemo, I've had an affinity for him for a bit, playing against Manco and also watching Manco. I think he's a really cool champ. He's very similar to Twitch jungle, or I guess Lucian jungle, I guess. But the truth is he's highly situational. If you pick him against a Xin Zhao, then sure, he's basically like A tier, S tier. If the enemy jungler is something like Evelyn or Echo, God bless you, dude. You're going to need some prayers. So he's really difficult to play. So we'll just put him down here in front of Aatrox just to dab on Aatrox jungle mains. All right, next up, Fiddlesticks. My long lost lover, my friend, my first champion I ever made to diamond with. He's not bad right now. He actually has some really easy matchups and he's really good against shutting down hyper carries like Yasuo, Kai'Sa, Vayne. Just press fear and you win. For that reason, I really do think he is high B tier, if not A tier, depending on your elo. As long as you're clearing properly, watch my Fiddlestick guides. He can actually clear as fast as Evelyn, at least in the initial clear. Check out my Fiddlestick jungle guides, got some good shit on him. Next up is Sion. I've really enjoyed playing him in past seasons, back during the tank meta. Currently though, he just doesn't have consistent enough ganks. And it's just really awkward to play him. So we'll have to put him down here amongst the turds. Next up is Graves, very situational. You need lane priority. He's kind of like B tier. He does fall off a lot harder than Fiddle, but in general, yeah, it's tough to put him above Fiddle or behind Fiddle. We'll just put him above because it looks cooler. He's better against AD champions, I guess. Like Xin Zhao, he can do really well against because of the extra armor he gets on his dash now. And then we have Nunu. He's still insanely good in solo queue at least. People don't respect his snowball and his scuttle priority that he uses his snowball ganks off of. I think he's still S tier, honestly. He might be A tier, low S tier, or in A tier. It's really tough to place him because he's similar to Mundo, where if the enemy team is AP heavy, that Spirit Visage rush is just so overwhelming. So we'll put him down here in low A tier. I think that's fair. Next up is Ivern. He just got a reasonable buff giving him ranged auto attacks permanently. This doesn't do a lot for good Ivern players since they can manage that anyways by using their bush mechanic. That doesn't do too much, but when you combine that in with the massive Locket buff, getting Locket as a secondary item behind the Redemption Rush is actually kind of scary, especially if Ivern can transition into early mid-game team fights. So with that being said, I think Ivern is gonna come up the list quite a bit. It's hard to say because the smoke hasn't settled yet. I think he could be as high as A tier, high A tier, or he could just be a B tier champ. So we'll place him here above Elise. He's definitely a one-trick champion though, so you should figure out how to play him before you start dumping him in ranked. Speaking of Ivern, if you want to be Ivern, you're typically going to go with a tankier champ since Ivern can't fuck with you, and you end up tanking and CCing more than Ivern can shield and heal is generally what happens, but with the Locket buffs, I'm not sure anymore. Zac, pretty damn solid right now in solo queue. I feel weird putting Elise this far down low. I already explained that if it's higher elo, she gets better. But yeah, if it's lower mid elo, she's not that great. Zac is really strong in low mid elo because he scales so well. And higher elo against good junglers, it can be a bit of a struggle. Shaco just got a bunch of buffs. It's hard to say where he's at, guys, but we'll just put him in A tier for now. He's kind of like an AD Evelyn. Pretty damn strong. He has AoE boxes now. His boxes do AoE damage. They also made his ultimate boxes activate instantly upon his ultimate dying. They also made his Q invisibility last, I believe, 2.5 seconds level 1 instead of 1 second. So he can actually gank straight out of red buff. He has a lot more options. I'll say he's A tier, but he is a bit of a one-trick material. Rek'Sai is tough to play. She's a noob stomper, but she doesn't scale, and she's very predictable. Like, her dash range is linear. It's always the same. She can't choose if she wants to shorten her dash or extend it. So, in my opinion, it's very easy to beat. Like, whenever she ults you or dashes, I think she's garbage. I will say she has quite a bit more carry potential than these knuckleheads, but that's not saying a whole lot. I think Rek'Sai C tier is more than fair. Speaking of C tier champions, we have Jack's jungle. Put him ahead. Jack's jungle is highly situational, good against auto attack based champions like Xin Zhao. Twitch jungle Kindred, he can be a really good counter matchup. However, he's a 3-item power spike jungler. He basically needs his jungle item, he needs Trinity Force, and he needs Spirit Shojin. Until he has those 3 full, extremely expensive items, he's really not much of a champion, and that's why he's C tier. He's just too gold reliant to be consistent. But yeah, if you do get it, then yeah, watch out. Next up, Malphite. He is Oh, it's really tough to place him, man. You could easily make the argument for him to be C or even A tier. I think just to be fair, we'll put him C tier. For those of you who don't know, you can go Predator Malphite, take a Genius Hunter, or even Ultimate Hunter, and you take Coup de Grace and Presence of Mind. Your ultimate will be like on a 40-second cooldown, 30-second cooldown once you have max CDR, and you just go AP and you're just a vicious one-shot machine. It's really nasty to play against. It has a lot of carry potential, even if you're playing with 120 ping, super nasty. Really tough to play some guys. You could easily make the argument for him higher. We'll just leave. I think he is better than Zach. We'll put him right there. It's tough to place him. Next up is Kha'Zix. Kha'Zix is S tier. He's insane. Arguably the best champion for solo queue right now. You can blind pick him as long as your team isn't full AD. He's probably the best jungle champion for solo queue right now with how fast he can take dragons, Rift Heralds, soloing champs. He's insane because of his passive. Probably needs a nerf. They shouldn't have buffed his Q. It's just disgusting. The higher elo you are, the better Kha'Zix is because he does kind of fall off late game. Next up is Kain. Lower elo you are, the better he is. The higher elo you are in general, the worse he gets. He is, however, he's not actually in a great spot because he's very inconsistent with hitting his second form, and he's so reliant on it, almost in the same way Jax is gold reliant. I think he is better than, yeah, I think that's a better spot to put them in. Whenever you're doing a puzzle, you'll kind of move the pieces around a little bit. All right, next up, Rengar. I placed him higher in the past. I'm kind of iffy on him right now. I feel like with how strong Kha'Zix is and with how strong Mundo is, those are both blind pickable champions that can solo Rengar at pretty much all points in the game, which is really bad for Rengar. Rengar wants to be able to solo the enemy jungler no matter what. It really hurts him, man. I will say Rengar is kind of C tier right now. God honest truth. Next up is Warwick. I say Warwick's around C tier. A little bit better than Rengar, has more consistent CC, isn't as gold reliant, isn't Infernal Dragon reliant. Still not happy with how buggy Warwick is. Next up, Twitch jungle. He's poop. Will say he's a little bit better than Teemo though. Kindred jungle is very similar to Graves jungle, to where she needs lane priority and she has specific matchups where she just can't play into it at all. Like Kha'Zix, she can't play into it all. Jax is rough. She does need lane prio though, so she can go for scuttles and invade the enemy jungler. If you're playing against a tank jungler like Zach or even Malphite, even if he goes AP, she's disgusting because you can dodge all of their heavy abilities and just light them up like crazy. Let's put her in front of Elise. I feel like I'm gonna have a lot of champions in B tier. I might have to shuffle a few. Next up, Lee Sin. I think he's dog crap, honestly. I don't think he's worth playing. If you're not playing him perfectly, he's very low value because he doesn't scale. And yeah, I don't think he's that great. I'll put him in front of Rek'Sai. I'll put him there. Next up is Vi. I've started to like Vi a lot more and I can respect her kit more. Been playing a lot more of her. And I think she does have more carry potential than Xin Zhao. She is more difficult to play though. We'll be putting Vi behind Warwick, but ahead of Xin Zhao. I don't think Xin's that great right now. Instead of Xin Zhao, you could just pick Kha'Zix or even at this point Shaco with the huge Shaco buffs, to where I feel like Xin Zhao's value gets highly diminished. Next up is Gragas. He is very controversial. In things like Pro Scene or Challenger, he can be really nice, especially in Pro Scene, because he has 2 knockups. You can't cleanse a knockup, but in solo queue, his solo potential isn't that great for soloing enemy junglers. His scaling isn't that great. It's mainly just his knockups, and in a highly coordinated team scenario, those knockups are super valuable, but solo queue isn't a highly coordinated kind of scenario, which is why Gragas in general in solo queue is not a great pick. We will be putting him here in front of them. Next up is Olaf. He's massive feast or famine, very difficult to place him. I'll place him here in front of Rek'Sai. He can kind of be S tier at times. Olaf is very gold reliant in the same way that Rengar is. He's not quite as gold reliant as Jax, but they need more gold than the enemies. If he is not ahead in gold in the enemies in the mid or late game, he can't really do anything. He's very early snowball reliant, not very consistent. We're looking at consistency and good champions to main here, guys. Next up is Talia. She's kind of shitty as a jungler right now. I don't want to say over nerfed her because I don't think she's a healthy jungler, but she's not great right now. I'll put her behind Twitch and in front of Teemo. Don't be mad at me, Manko. All right, next up, Kamil. She's garbage. We'll put her... Ooh, that's tough. That's a toughie. I'll put her behind her. Kamil jungle does scale, yes. She's extremely gold reliant to the point where if her early gank doesn't work, the game's over for her. And she can't clear her jungle properly because they took away her AoE. She needs Tiamat. So, yep. That's where she belongs. Nocturne is a giant turd sandwich. He's level 6 reliant. His ganks pre-6 are crap. He doesn't scale the best. He's a lethality reliant jungler. So if the enemy team is beefy or if his team is AD heavy, that takes away from his massive lethality power spike. His itemization is honestly one of the biggest reasons why he's so garbage. His only true itemization path has a lot of downsides. Let's put him there. It's kind of sad too because the only role he can really play is jungle, and when lethality items are way overtuned, I guess he can kind of play mid, but that's not a usual thing. Next up is Hecarim. He's fallen out of the meta quite a bit. He's lost a lot of respect. He's also gotten nerfed, and there's plenty of counter champions to Hecarim like Kha'zix who can just rip him in half. He doesn't scale the best. He's not necessarily gold reliant. He's more level reliant because of his massive level 6 power spike. We'll put Hecarim here behind Gragas. Next up is Poppy. She has her moments to shine. She can have some interesting counter matchups. Does have really high base damage, but she's just too damn situational to where we are going to be putting her ahead of Aatrox. She's quite a bit better than Sion though. Let's not kid ourselves. Next up is Karthus. He is a weighted coin flip. If you pick Karthus and you're playing him correctly, you have pretty much a 52 to 55% chance of winning no matter what elo you're in. He's really good. You can obviously have a higher win rate than that. I'm just saying, like, Karthus is almost always a great pick. As long as you don't first pick him, you'll be fine. If you first pick him and the enemy team picks like a Soraka, and then they'll pick other shit that can build like Hourglass or like a Sivir 80 carry, then that will be rough. Other than that, Karthus is basically, he's almost S tier. Can't blind pick him though, so we won't put him S tier. Echo and in front of Nunu. Next up is Maokai. Yeah, he can't jungle. Let's not kid ourselves. I will put him ahead of... Yeah, I'm going to Teemo's ahead of you, Maokai. How does that feel? I'm going to put him here in F tier. Next up is Cho Gath. I feel like he has potential if you're using the correct runes. I feel like he has scaling potential. He has dragon control potential. He has solid clears. Better than half the junglers. Let's put him here in front of Amumu. Next up is Sejuani. Sejuani's been nerfed so many times, she's almost at the point where she's unplayable in solo queue. The pro scene abuses her because of her permalock CC and how tanky she is. But in solo queue environment, she's just not what you want right now, especially since tank meta isn't that great in solo queue currently. So we're going to have to find a reasonable spot for her. Let's put her in front of Amumu and behind Cho Gath. Next up, we have Shen. He has good counter matchups like Jack's Jungle, Xin Zhao, even Graves or Kindred. Lands the taunt, easy win. He also has really good pressure with his ultimate. He can gank one lane, and if the enemy jungler counter ganks another lane simultaneously, he can ult to it. He has some interesting plays. He has the same issue Kamil has, to where he's very Tiamat reliant, which makes him early gold reliant, which is why we can't put him up too high. I think a reasonable spot for him is somewhere around D or E. We'll leave him right here for now. I think he could easily get bumped up if the situation's right. Next up is Volibear. Trick 2G plays him because Trick 2G is an OG and he's nostalgic. Truth is, Volibear is garbage. He's very easy to play around. He's very easy to read what he's doing. I mean, his Q is just a massive giveaway. He's running at you and it's going to go on cooldown if he doesn't flip you in time. I don't respect Volibear as a champion. I think he's very easy to play around. He doesn't scale that great. His early game is questionable as a jungler. We're going to put him here in F tier behind Teemo jungle. We will put him in front of Maokai and Sion though. Next up is Gallio jungle. It's very similar to Gragas jungle. He has 2 knockups. He has reasonable wave clear. He has reasonable jungle clear. He has reasonable scaling. His main thing is he can struggle in 1v1s against enemy junglers, but his ganks overall are pretty dang good. We'll put him right here in front of Diana. I think this is a reasonable spot. I think Gallio could easily get bumped up. I'll have to do more testing with him, but so far from what I've seen, it's reasonable to put him in D tier. I might have to put him down to F tier in the next patch. We'll see. Gonna require some more testing. Udyr's poop. He's very poop. We'll put him here in front of Gallio. Next up is Skarner, the E tier gatekeeper. Next up is Shyvana, close behind Skarner. They do, feels like the same exact thing really. They don't do a whole lot. Then we have Jarvan. He's Xin Zhao. He's a Xin Zhao copycat. Next up is Pantheon jungle. I don't respect Pantheon. I think Pantheon jungle is laughable against a good jungler. It does have some strong damage though, so we'll bump it up because of that reason. I'm not gonna put it in front of Hecarim though. That's as high as I'm willing to go. Master Yi, super conflicted on this pick. Depending on your region, if you are in a weaker region or if you're in a lower elo, his level 1 damage is off the charts, probably the highest in the game in terms of all inning. His just base damage is insane. He can be difficult to play if you don't have the right team comp. We're going to have to put Master Yi at the front of D tier. If you're funneling with him or if you're doing a legitimate dual strategy, he's probably A tier or S tier. But if you're playing him in true solo queue in general, he's D tier unless the conditions are perfect. I actually just decided. Next up is Knittle. The higher elo you get, the better she is. The lower elo you are, the worse she gets. She's not great late game. Her early game is highly abusive. She's basically an AP version of Graves. The way she functions, she needs lane priority. She is really difficult to deal with in that aspect. If you're someone like Kha'zix though, it doesn't matter. I think a fair spot to put Knittle with in front of Kindred behind Malphite. Alright guys, that is going to wrap up this jungle tier list for the best jungle champions in League of Legends solo queue patch 9.20. Let me know if I didn't include any champions you want to see in the next one. I'm also interested to see what you guys have to say about the champion placements. Do you think a champion was put too high, or do you think a champion was put too low? Or are you just salty that Teemo was higher up on the list than your main champion? Like always, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you did enjoy the video. It helps out with the YouTube algorithm immensely. My name is KingStix. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time.
It's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush.